we maybe shouldn't be so exercised in our opinion, because it all smacks of sort of Trump derangement. Right, Lionel? I know you have an opinion. You never check yourself, and I'm not sure I want you particularly to check yourself, but let's hear what you have to say about this.
Well, first of all, I've never seen you so excited. Last time I saw you this aroused was when they canceled the Ropers. But you know, Drew, by the way, did you know I am 9 days your senior? Both of us were born exactly the same time, same astrological sign. Both of us are feces. And you know, you did something right now which I think was very interesting. First, you were trolled, and I can't believe a man of your je ne sais quoi, your bain de soleil, your pâté de foie gras, how you could do that. Now, what I do is when somebody does waste their time with these threads, these voluminous excoriations, this gravamen, you know, this explaining these indictments of you, after you're done, you must respond with, "What do you mean?" Question mark. Now they're going to have to say.
Lionel, I usually comment about their hairstyle. I like your bangs.
No, but I always wait, and then they'll come back, and then you say, "For example, what?" And then they'll say, "Do you not hear?" And you'll see how far can I take these people. But you bring up a very good point, and this is so interesting. I myself have it's this instant expertise thing. I don't know. This is the Grundig, whatever. But my particular thing was, I'll give you mine. Women who claim that they have lost rights, they have no rights under President Trump, and for some reason they believe that Roe against Wade and everything. So I said, "Oh, this is interesting. Oh, so you know about Roe, right?" He goes, "Yes." "Oh, I see. So what about substantive due process? Did you find not problematic?" It's like me arguing ivermectin with you. I say, what? But they have this idea that, well, no, somehow that means something. I said, well, do you know the history behind? Do you know what privacy is, and how that came from Griswold in 1965, and how basically it was made up, and they'll look at you, and you know what? Nothing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say. None of it matters.
Well, because these are really ultimately, Lionel, these are assigned opinions by a lying, inaccurate press.
Right.
They are brainwashing people. That's what I'm concerned about. I want people to check themselves and and really pay attention to what they're thinking and saying.
And you know, Drew, if you don't want me calling you Drew, because Mary Ann would make no sense. Fine. But you know, I think that what's important is that we need to bring back to our vocabulary we must unpack the notion of people who are retarded. And for a long time we said, "Oh, that's a bad word." As though when I say, "Hey, what are you, blind? What are you, deaf?" I'm not making fun of these people, but there are people who I think that for whatever particular reason, they're just born stupid. And I think that we have to call them out, and we have to adjudicate them stupid, and we have to come up with, instead of the insanity defense, stupid, because a lot of people are just stupid, Boeotians, dimwits, dullards. I mean, absolute jadrules, as we say here in Hell's Kitchen. So that aside, but remember, if you don't run into these people, you're not doing something right. I do this all the time. You mentioned, for example, I thought we were going to talk a little bit about Ukraine and Israel and the Middle East, or Trump, or what he said and what he didn't say. And I don't know what it is. You mentioned critical thinking. You know, in law school, we had this thing called IRAC. It was this acronym for Issue, Rule, Analysis, Conclusion. And it was this blue book. Whenever you had a legal issue, you say, first of all, what is the issue? What are we talking about? Let's make sure we know what we're talking about. For the case of ivermectin, the issue is it harmful? Is it, what are we talking about? Let's just make sure we home in, not hone, but home in on this issue. Now, what's the rule? Well, this is where your expertise comes in. What does the literature say? What do the studies say? What does it do? Mm-hmm. What is ivermectin? Mm-hmm. It's inert. It's inert. Hello. What do you need to do? What about inert? Why are we even having this? Here, take this thing. It's like the placebo. It's a sugar pill, whatever you want to call it. So that's the rule. You analyze it, you take the issue and you take it, and then you make a conclusion. That's called critical thinking. That's just what we do. But the first rule people should say is, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about this subject. History is my favorite. Tolstoy said history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. And I get this all the time.
Yeah.
People will just make things up, and then once they commit themselves to not liking you or what you said, they're steadfast. They're intransigent. They're not going to budge. And what's interesting is all of a sudden, do what I do. Agree with them and then disagree with them, and you'll drive them crazy. You're absolutely correct. However, wait a minute. What? And play with them. Because, Dr. Drew, have you ever had a cat? You ever see a cat with a mouse? Cat doesn't kill the mouse, drives the mouse crazy. Goes like this. That's what I do with people. You really have to learn.
I like that. And it really doesn't, you get, what is this? What are you doing putting up there,
This
Caleb?
definitely applies. It's an article I read earlier. So to fight all of these phone scammers that are calling up your grandma and your grandpa all the time, a company created an AI granny that will sit on the phone with these scammers for hours, running them in circles like this, saying, I don't know how to turn my computer on. Where's the foot pedal for this computer? And drive them nuts. They've spent 1,000 hours already with scammers talking to an AI grandmother.
So we need that for our trolls. Normally I don't read stuff, but occasionally I do read things, and things get well, but they you read stuff and it always hurts because, and my always reaction is, why do you think it's okay to talk to somebody like that? It's like you took your time.
Don't you
took your
understand?
time to go to somebody you don't know and try to harm them. That's such a weird impulse. It does not speak well of you.
Well, it also, but you have to, and your beloved Susan must have to deal with this because you come across like such a nice guy, and you must go home at night and just take a shot of tequila and just slap that, because you can't be this nice all the time. You can't be this, perspicacious, understanding. There's got to be a real wild man inside you that wants to scream and frankly choke people to death. And there's nothing wrong with that. Go with that. I live like that all the time, so I'm very well balanced. I basically hate people.
Evidently not.
I'm misanthropic. I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that? Was that a slight?
Nothing. Keep going. It was a slight, but it was not meant to be heard. Keep going.
Well, I don't really care. I just want to hear it, because if it's a good one, I'm all for it. But
I just said something like evidently not. So
well, and that of course is your wit. And that's fine. And it'll have to suffice. But here's the thing. Remember, you only take flack when you're over the target. You only, if people think they know you, and you do this stuff, and you say, excuse me, madam, hi. Apparently you've confused me for somebody who gives a shit about what you're saying, and then move on. And then they'll say, did Dr. Drew say that? Did he say that? Yes, he did. Let me tell you one of my favorite examples of how people just are just so bloody stupid. Years ago, I was doing a talk radio show with a pharmacist. Remember when RU 486 came out? Or are you against it, right? The spontaneous abortion pill or something. So I spent the entire hour with this pharmacist scientist talking about abortion, spontaneous abortion, and the woman has to go through and sift through. It was just horrible. Anyway, abortion. The whole hour. They said, I'll never forget this. I said, we have time for one more call. Go ahead. And this was in Florida, where, the average age is deceased, at the time. So this woman called up. She says, yes, I just have one question. Is there any negative effects on the child? Now, this is after talking about, and I just stopped, and we went right. There was no music, no nothing. We just went. I thought to myself, this person probably drives, has a car, has sharp objects. And there are people like this who were just so stupid. But that
Lionel, you got to remember, that the IQ test was designed with the average at 100, and 100 is not a really high IQ.
No.
And half the people are below. I mean, for the most part, a big population are below, and a big population are above in a bell curve distribution, roughly half and half. Right. And that's where we are. That a lot of people are not able to reason this
stupid.
way and to listen or to hear things. Well, and to your
Because they're
point about
retarded.
that is that, well, by the way, terms like retarded, imbecile, idiot, these are all clinical
that.
terms. They
Yes,
actually
that's
had
exactly.
measurable IQ zones associated with
Yes.
them. But I would just say, what you're asking for is the reinstating of judging. It's good to judge, is what you're saying.
Yes.
And I
Yes,
think that's
absolutely.
true. I think we should be judging people, or we should at least be able to express how we judge
Yes.
things.
And I am the judge.
Yeah.
In order for you to say, if I were to say, Dr. Drew, you are very good at this. And by the way, can I say something professionally? Because I've been doing talk radio since like the 80s. Your spot load is fantastic. You can cram more commercials into a show than
Thank you.
anybody. I am so in awe of you. You can do commercials within commercials. You're like Paul Harvey
Mhm.
used to do that. Paul, did you ever hear Good day, Paul Harvey? You would think
Yep.
it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
story.
Of course.
It's a commercial. He goes, and I turned to Angel. I said, there's my Buick. I said, God damn it, it's a commercial. Anyway, you're fantastic at that. No, I mean it. And people believe you. See, you have this thing where you could say, and where does this come from? From
Well,
seagull feces.
But Lionel,
And they'll say,
to be to that point, we select everything carefully. So it's stuff we do
I
use.
know.
I do stand by it. I mean the things I say.
This is
and,
not a
and
And
commercial.
this is, by the way, Susan and Caleb at work. So they're actually delighted with what you're
Emily.
saying. And Emily, yeah.
Oh no!
So go
Are
ahead,
you kidding
finish
me?
your-
I
yeah.
love it. I love it. In fact, what you do is you thoroughly check it. Make sure they're Dun and Bradstreet rated. Make sure the check's clear. Make sure they don't skip out the or you check them all right, and you should listen. You're not. You know, I used to have on my business cards, I'm not a missionary. I'm not put on this planet to just dispense great advice. I'm here for this, not money. This. But anyway, let's talk more about
Lionel,
what
do you have a producer?
No, I'm my producer.
Ah, all right. Yeah. So, a bunch of those ads are there to feed my babies. So
Let me tell you, I love, have you ever done a spot where you didn't know what it was? Remember, I've done talk radio. They handed stuff to me. I didn't even know what it was. There was a commercial years ago called Collage. And it was, I think, it was a meditation, a series of CDs and music where you would play. I think this is what it was, and it had a mask, one of those, Arlene Francis, kind of like, look, I used to call it the Polish Lone Ranger. There's no eyes, it's Tonto. Anyway, you wore the mask, and that's a Polish joke. I'm sorry, please. It's from our generation, Drew. It's when we could joke. Remember Mad Magazine and National Lampoon? Anyway, so
Oh, yeah.
I did this spot, and I said, can I do whatever I want? He goes, yes. And I said, when you come home at night and you're feeling bad, you put on Collage. Anyway, I didn't even know what it was. Do you know they sold out? They kept upping the schedule. They said, keep doing it. I said, what is it? I don't even know what it is. But I was selling it out. There was at Barnes & Noble. And I didn't know what it was. That's how good I was. So let me tell you something. What you're doing right
Hang on. So one of the great privileges, I've done radio too. And on radio, you do what they tell you to do.
Really?
One of the great
In what
privileges
country?
of digital, digital is first of all, I'm required to say whether I use these things and what I actually think about them. And if I don't know them, I have to signal that. That's the way it is. And I'm required to call it like I see it if I'm going to represent something here. But I'm back in when you're working for somebody else. You're right. You end up just reading the material that they give you because that's what you're required to do. But even then, I would always try to say, I'd always have to say, I've never used this product. I can't say that this is necessarily the case, but read
Who
it.
the hell
I
wants to
would
buy
say that because
Hello, I'm Dr. Drew. I don't know what the hell this is. I've never used it. But listen, if you want to take a chance, that's selling it. But listen, aside from that, what you're doing right now is so important and so critical because remember what you're doing. You're their friend. It's not about what you say. They know you. And you know what else is good about you? Can I say something? As a professional, the balance. I love
I'm
the
not sure.
balance. I love the balance. You bring your crew into it. The laughing. A lot of these jerk offs in the business don't want anybody horning in on my time. I like it, and it's fun. Because the bottom line is people have to like you. And if they like you, that's the most important part. So many times you hear these people on TV and they're miserable. That notwithstanding, we were supposed to talk about theoretically, Ukraine? You want to talk about Ukraine? Be honest. Do you really want to?
Sure. Let's talk about it. Because I hear lots of... No, I hear lots of scary stuff, and I don't know what to believe. Here's the biggest problem, Lionel. The biggest problem is I now believe nothing that comes out of any press outlet, particularly print. But nothing, maybe local news I can kind of believe sometimes, but that's about it. And so when it comes to something as complicated as a military conflict in a historically very complicated region of the world, I have no idea what should be done. I don't know where to go to read and get a good source about it to be able to have an opinion, nor maybe should I have an opinion. I certainly don't believe the press.
Well, first of all, we're using, you see, Drew, we're from a time when we had the press. We had Cronkite. Remember at night when Cronkite spoke? Kids don't even know what that means today. This guy was it. Like LBJ purportedly said, when you've lost Cronkite, you've lost Middle America. And by the way, let me add something to your mother about the dry cleaning bags. I heard that one too, because I heard they would actually move. They would come at you in the middle of the night. They moved. But you mentioned a thing, poking your eye out. Mine was breaking your neck, and my father was an absolute ardent fan. Yeah, my father was an ardent fan of if you eat and go swimming, you will die. You will get a cramp and sink like a rock.
That's another one. That's another one. But that's all public health bullshit.
Yeah, I said, but it's a waiting. I said, but it's a waiting pool. It's a waiting pool. Years ago, when we were kids, laughing, there was a guy named Alan Seuss, and there was a joke that I saw. It cracked me up. Then I was a kid. Somebody threw a bucket of water on him, and he yelled, "Cramps! I've got cramps." Now, nobody we get it. But you mentioned before somebody, your prior guest was talking about the milk carton. That was Eitan Pates. It was here in New York. And I remember there was, and I want to say this, and I think we were very lucky. And maybe everybody says that, when they were kids. But I did things like, for example, one of my favorite games with my sisters and my friends of mine, we would call jump off the roof. We put a towel around us. We thought we were Superman, and we would jump. And one day, my father was watching, and he saw this. He saw, kid after kid, and he came out and referred to me. I thought my name was God damn it until I was like 35. I go, God damn it! What are you kids doing? And I said, we're jumping off the roof. He says, okay, and he closed the door. Like, I just want to know what you're doing. Don't do it. You're going to break it up. Yeah, I just want to know what it's called. I just want to make sure I know what it's called. I had, and maybe you did too, not BB guns, but pellet guns. And it was the Crossman with the pump, and you get this thing. And one time, did you ever read Boy's Life magazine when you were a kid? It was this.
I remember seeing it. Yeah, a little bit. Okay. It was going to be in the doctor's office, that kind of thing.
That was Highlights. Remember Highlights?
Yeah,
Rufus and Gallant?
Highlights, yes.
Highlights.
Yes.
You were so bored because you went into a doctor's office and you weren't going like this. You were saying, "What the hell do you got? Jim Cutter's Quarterly. What are you, a sadist? Give me a life." And you would sit there and you had nothing to do, and we could somehow amuse ourselves. We used to travel in a car from Florida to Canada in a '66 Impala, my sister and me, and we didn't get bored. We would sit there. Is that a Stuckey's? And we didn't need to be coddled. We didn't need any medication. It was like, what were we, stupid? We just found things interesting. And and I know I saw like every guy our age, but it was a different time. Anyway, back to the Boy's Life, there was this one thing about, hey, is that a daisy? I remember the daisy. And somebody said, oh my God, I shot my eye out. That's right, with a daisy, Red River Special. Notice that clean wound, and they would joke. We would joke about things. National Lampoon wouldn't even be, put it this way, go to National Lampoon online, everybody, and look up foreigners around the world. T.J. O'Rourke. don't show anybody this. You will be indicted. If you have this in your possession, it goes after every race, every ethnicity, so brutally, it is hysterical. Because Drew, we had this thing called a sense of humor. Do you remember when Archie Bunker came out for the first time, 1971, 72, and people said, what's that? Nobody lost their mind. They said it was funny because we saw through it that Archie was the idiot. The racist was the idiot. Not today, because through this not systematic desensitization, not a kind of a Skinnerian, but the opposite, a systematic sensitization. And DEI, as you brought up from that, we've lost our minds. And let me tell you something, the pendulum is going to swing back like a wrecking ball. And thank God for this man right here, Trump, whether he meant it, whether he did it, whether it is the, look at this, I got my talisman here. I'm all in, because after 4 years of this demented, wizened, dotard, this fool, and this monosyllabic, logorrheic, this emotionally incontinent fool, I'm thought to myself, am I the only one? Do you remember, Drew, when they were saying, do you think Biden's up for it? He's wizened. He's hobbled by decrepitude. Would you let this man drive you to the airport? What the hell is the matter with us?
Interesting question.
Maybe something is coming back. Yeah. I swear to you, this was an experiment. This was a weird kind of a Rod Serling Twilight Zone. I'm expecting somebody one day to pull back for Karine Jean-Pierre to pull that thing off her head and said, I'm kidding. It's a joke. I was seeing how long it would take before you'd say, we're not going to take this anymore. Everything. And Elon Musk, God bless this man. Can you imagine what's going to happen? Listen up, Susan. Can you imagine what happens when The View is owned by him and he says, oh, I'm not canceling you. You just can't speak forever. I own you now. You can't speak. I've never heard more people in not in love with, in hate with the media. You say the media. We despise these people, these sock puppets, these windsock cretins who are just these apparatchiks. The Alec Baldwins, they're probably your buddies because you're into that LA scene. Well, they're not mine, and I loathe them. And I think there was Rob Schneider you were talking to. Was that correct?
Yep. Also my friend.
God bless him. And look at the crap that man went through. Tell me one thing he ever said. Tell me one thing. No, I'm going to say whatever I want.
He said everything right. He said everything right. That was what he and I review all the time.
God bless him. He did it. He stood up. And all of a sudden, these people, these people that just said, I'm not backing down. Good for you. And thank God you, in your own way, you're very careful now because you're always a statesman, but your miserable profession, when you put us through that crap with all that COVID and all that nonsense and all that stuff, and all we wanted to do was just live. And you tried very carefully. I know you tried to say, no, wait a minute, and then you've got somebody from some stupid Wikipedia office decide, get him. Somebody says, get him. What do you think about a source? What do you think about an encyclopedic source that has as its first rule, this is not an authoritative? That's like having a pill that says, don't take this. It'll kill you.
Yeah.
But we fought through it. And you know what?
Well, good news is we've got Jay Bhattacharya at the NIH. That is the best news of all time. And then it's so poetic. It's such justice. It's so incredible. Marty's great. But I've been saying since the beginning of this whole thing that Jay Bhattacharya is the poster child for the excesses, the devastating takedown of a fringe epidemiologist, all this bullshit. No more people don't understand even how poetic this is, that he is the head of NIH, is now Fauci's boss. He is Francis Collins, and it will be exceptional. Lionel, I've got to wrap this up. We didn't do much on the Ukraine. Maybe we'll have to come back and revisit that. Good is good, fine with me. There's still scary stuff coming out about it that I'm struggling with.
You don't want to know.
Again,
it's worse than you think.
I don't want to know. I don't.
It's awful.
Don't go. I want to know.
Give us a sentence. It's awful because
World War III. World War III. Because these
we continue.
These weird eschatological, and by the way, the Middle East, you've got these eschatological, by the way, the emphasis on scatological, eschatological.
No, I understand. Eschatological,
yes.
End of world people, yes.
No, yeah, the end
not
of time.
the shit people, the end of world people. End of time, not the shit people. Got it.
Tribulation, Armageddon, this is what we're waiting for. This is this is nonsense. But in any event, and it's a weird time when you say, very frankly, when I find, you know who I agree with regarding Ukraine? Putin! What the hell's going on here? This man makes more sense than anything I've ever seen. And when I tell people that, they look at me like, well, what are you? I heard somebody, you're going to love this. They call me a Ruski or a commie. I said, there's no commies. In any event, we'll talk about that. It's a very, very scary time. But listen, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family and everybody else. God bless you. Yes.
We'll bring the Ruski back one of these days soon. You can follow the Ruski at lionelmedia.com. Also, Lionel Nation at Lionel Nation on YouTube and at Lionel Media on X. Lionel, have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you, Mr. Ruski. We'll catch up with you soon. Have
By
a good
the way,
holiday.
you got a schmutzig on your couple of them.
I still do. I can't rely on my team here to protect me.
Go back.
Cheers. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're all worry about it.
Goodness gracious. Bless his heart, as they say.